What is up, people? It is me, Monster50, and welcome back to another video review. And today we are going to be taking a look at the Monsterarts Anguirus from the 1972 film Godzilla vs. Gigan. Now, this is really amazing because this is a character and a monster that I've been waiting to get a figure because for a long time I know Godzilla and Anguirus fought with each other, but at the end of the day they became extremely good allies and, well, in my opinion, besties. And so this is a character I've always loved to play in the games and stuff like that, from Destroy All Monsters Melee to Unleashed, Save the Earth. This is a character I always enjoyed, and finally happy to have this character in actual figure form from Bandai as an SH Monsters, because I think this is the first one they've ever done. I was actually expecting them to do the -1 version of Anguirus, but it kind of, in my opinion, would do the character a little disservice if they didn't end up doing one of the original versions of him first. But I digress. The one thing we'll call him is Angweenus as well. I know the joke. But taking a look at the box here, you can see the very cool artwork here, a very nice product shot, obviously, of Anguirus himself. Got the nice fire in the background to add a little bit more to it. SH Monsterarts Anguirus 1972. And the thing I didn't tell you guys, too, I think I mentioned this in the Gigan review and the Godzilla review, is that this is one of the best and funniest movies of all time, in my opinion, for, like, giant monsters. Godzilla's death-defying, gravity-defying drop kicks, thumbsing up the camera, shaking jet jaguars. It's so ridiculous, but it's so funny. More nice artwork here on the side. You can see the nice text here, 1972. SH Monsterarts as well. On the other side, I think just more nice product shots. Yeah, excuse me, of Anguirus in black and white. And if I had to think, I believe this is Godzilla in Japanese, but it could be Anguirus, but I think it's Godzilla in the kanji as we know it. And then we go on here on the back, and you can see all the obligatory product shots of Anguirus himself. Looks really, really solid. Very, very excited to have this guy. And then you can see, obviously, Gigan, Anguirus and Godzilla right there in their poses on the back for those product shots. But as per usual, just like I think Hasbro kills it with the box, I also think that Bandai kills it with these boxes. And so, folks, without further ado, alrighty, folks, here we have the SH Monsterarts Anguirus from the 1972 film Godzilla vs. Gigan out of the box in his robot, because it's not a Transformer. But regardless, this guy looks really, really good. Now, this isn't quite coming across on camera. I'm sure you might be able to see this in other videos and maybe other photos online, but Anguirus has like a little bit of a red tinge to him. Like you guys see with my Autobot thumbnails that I do for those reviews, I usually do like a red color balance, because just to give it, right, it's red. Autobot's, red symbol, purple for the Decepticons, right? And so it's sort of the same thing here, where if you were to put like a very slight red tinge filter over it, and whether this is accurate or not, from what I've seen, tends to be a little bit of a debate in the community here, because in the film there are a couple of scenes where you could argue that he looked red, but for me, my biggest exposure to Anguirus really isn't the 72 film, more or less. It's actually the games. I played an endless amount of all the Pipeworks games, and in those games, he was pretty much just black and gray, mainly this black scales and gray. So for me to see this in the light, you can definitely see the red tinge on his scales, and whether this looks bad or not, it doesn't look bad at all. It actually looks perfectly fine. It's just the accuracy of whether it is accurate to the film or not is obviously up for debate. Now, the design that they went with in the games, to me, is clearly the 1972 version of Anguirus. But overall, I just wanted to point that out, because in terms of the accuracy of the paint of his scales, that's kind of debated in this figure at the very least. I do think that it looks perfectly fine. And overall, do I really care? Personally, I am a stickler for accuracy, but here, honestly, it's just so subtle, in my opinion, that you'll only see this in like really bright lights, like I have in my room here. I'm not mad about it at all. I think it looks perfectly fine, because everything else is really, really good. I actually really like this figure, including the spines. In terms of the spines are completely accurate. The sort of like faded beige yellow color that they have is perfectly accurate to what we've seen in the films and then even in the games and everything like that. So overall, I'm not mad about the fact that he has this little red tinge to him. But taking a look at the details, you can see his head looks really, really good. The teeth are very well painted. The eyes look really, really nice. Again, the horns and the spikes look great. You can obviously open and close his mouth like this, and then you can slack jaw him if you wish, as a lot of these SH Monsterarts figures have. The big fangs, obviously, the saber-tooth style fangs look really, really awesome. And we just go here. You can see all of that awesome molded in detail across the board. with all those little scales. You can see them right there. It looks really good. You can see the spines on the back also look really, really solid, like the sort of like gradient from the grayish on his skin all the way up to the beige yellow on his spines. Going down here to the arms, those look good. These have the little spikes on them as well, look great. The claws also look fantastic. Legs look really good. You can see again all that awesome molded in detail is carried, and then that carries throughout the tail as well with all the spikes as well. So, and the way this guy sits down, I do have a hard time kind of like getting him in the pose I would quite want him to be in, but overall, this guy looks really, really solid, and I'm very happy with how the visuals of this guy are, because I think the molded in detail, even the paint, regardless of the accuracy or the pinpoint accuracy or not, doesn't really bother me all that much, and I think it looks really, really good otherwise. So overall, when it comes to the looks department of this guy, I think he looks absolutely fantastic. And so what we're going to do is the tail's going to be off screen, but I'm going to set this guy up to the side here so that we can do our size comparisons, because I actually brought out the other figures that, match along with this guy that we currently own, so we'll bring those out here. Alright, folks, for my de facto comparison, here he is with the Transformers Legacy United Deluxe Class Infernac Universe Magnus. As you can see, Anguirus obviously being on all fours is going to be shorter, but when you do raise him up like this, so I'll show you, you can actually stand him on his hind legs here. He is actually he's a good decent bit taller, more closer to like a Voyager style class figure from Transformers. So as you can see, when it comes to the actual like Anguirus standing on his hind legs, then he actually is taller than Magnus, but before that he's about half-ish the size. But yeah, I think Anguirus scales here real well, and you can see just my de facto comparison with the deluxe Transformer. So if you have a deluxe class Transformer or a figure in that sort of scale, you'll get how big Anguirus is. Alrighty, folks, here he is with Jet Jaguar. These two scale really, really well together. I think that to the top of his head, Godzilla should be taller than Anguirus, so to have Anguirus just slightly shorter than Jet Jaguar here, I think makes perfect sense. Overall, looks really, really good together. Yes, my apologies, I had to raise the camera, but here he is with Gigan. As you can see, these two look awesome together as they appeared in the film. Very, very cool. I'm really wanting them to get Megalon. Like, I am, like, fiending for them to make their Megalon. I think they've already revealed it, or at least they talked about it. I can't remember. It's been a minute. But regardless, I really want them to make Megalon because that's a character that we have never gotten a figure for, in my opinion, to my knowledge, from SH Monsterarts from this line, and even in this scale, sort of this price point range. So really, really happy to see these two scale together, and again, like I'm really hoping we get Megalon. But again, these two look awesome together. Sure, Gigan's a bit taller, but he should be. And guys, here he is with the G-Man himself. Once enemies turned allies, turned besties, these two look awesome together. Really, really happy with how these two look. Very, very cool. Now, yeah, if I straighten Godzilla a bit more, yeah, he'll be a tad bit taller than Anguirus, but that's pretty accurate. Overall, looks really, really good together, and I have no complaints about the scale with these two. They look awesome together. Alrighty, folks, and it's time to get into the articulation for this guy. So when it comes to the articulation is pretty good on this guy. You do have some nice joints here in the neck, the sort of standard SH Monster stuff, so you can look really far up, you can look pretty far down. You can look a decent bit side to side, but you wouldn't also want to look too far because you don't want to obviously rip the head off. Arms can technically do a full 360, but yeah, there you go. You can do full 360 from the bottom. You have a joint here at the elbow, and then the wrists are also on ball joints. Now, this one on mine comes off a little bit easier than this one here on this side, so his right, our left, and his left, our right. The other thing too, the legs can also technically do a full 360, or well, there goes the leg. There you go. Slap that on, but can do technically a full 360, but because of the way it's designed, they like to bang into each other, so you can't quite get it. Knees can go pretty far forward, pretty far back actually, and then these are really, really cool because Anguirus sort of always has this kneeling pose, so it's really cool that you're able to bend the feet as far as you can, because you can see how far they bend. Like, look at that. Those bend really, really far, and it gives them more stability. The tail also is the classic SH Monsterarts tail, so you get a lot of joints, so you can curl up pretty nicely in here. Now, the only a little sad part about this figure that I will say is that I can't really find a way to get him curled into a ball and roll. There's no way to really do that, which blows. And the last thing I'll actually talk about with the articulation is how his back works. As you can see, as we've been moving this figure around, this is sort of on its own, like, joint that wraps around his, it's kind of more like a backpack. If I had to say something, it reminds me of Master Roshi's turtle shell that he always wears. Very similar in that sense. But I think it's really nice that they did it like this, because in the way, like, sure, it is a bit loose and it kind of jiggles around when you move him around, but it's stable enough to where, like, because it is a bit loose, you have the opportunity to move Anguirus a bit more without having to compromise this. Because if this was a more static and solid piece, in my opinion, it would limit Anguirus' articulation. So just to give him a little more breathing room, I am perfectly happy with that. And because we're talking about this, well, because we're he doesn't come with anything. There's no accessories. I would have an accessory section, but there's the lack thereof. Now, when it comes to the accessory section, what I will say is in the box, and I think in the film, right, he had like those speech bubbles. So you do have those speech bubbles literally on the inside of one of the parts of the box. And sure, you could cut them out and stuff like that if you'd wish. But the other thing too is in the games, a lot of the monsters will have beams, right? Godzilla has his atomic breath. Destroyer has like his oxygen, stuff. King Ghidorah has his electricity. The Mechagodzillas will always have like their laser eye beams. Orga will have like his cannon that's on his shoulder. But when it comes to Anguirus, because he never shot out anything, what they did is they had him do essentially kind of like Black Canary or Sindel from Mortal Kombat, basically a really, really loud scream. And personally, I would have liked it if there was like the ability to have like a clear plastic bit, that's sort of shaped in a cone that you would just shove in his mouth, and then that would be like his little effect part. I get that it was based on the 72 film and not quite the game, so at the same time, it doesn't make me wish that he had something like that. And you can't really change anything for his hands or his feet or anything like that, because there's no opportunity to do that, because why would he? Like, there's no reason to have different hands and feet at this point. And so the fact that he doesn't come with any accessories is a bit of a blow. Excuse me, not a low blow, just a bit of a blow. But I understand why. I'm just saying that when you're paying, a good bit for a thing, $100+, you think he'd come with something, but at the end of the day, I understand. But from everything else's perspective, from how he looks visually, to the sculpt, to the paint, to the articulation, he's a really, really amazing figure, and honestly, a really awesome SH Monsterarts. I personally really do like it. Alrighty folks, so for my final and concluding thoughts on the SH Monsterarts Anguirus as he appeared in the 1972 film Godzilla vs. Gigan, this is a really solid release, and in my opinion it's really, really cool. Now, the biggest gripe I'll have with this figure is mainly the fact that he doesn't come with anything else. Now that's a blessing and a curse. In my opinion, it's a curse just due to the fact that you're paying, $130 or so, and he doesn't come with anything. But at the end of the day, given his character and what he did in the film, there really wasn't much to add, if anything. Like I said, the only thing that you really get are like those speech bubbles on like the inside of the box that you could probably cut out if you want to, but I would not have the will to be able to cut the box, because the box looks great and it just feels dirty to cut the box. And the other issue that I'll have is more of a debate. I mentioned at the beginning of the review, the red tinge, whether he was actually red or not in the film, I think it just depends on whether you're seeing it on DVD or digital and stuff like that, or, stuff like that. But overall, especially when I'm going to the accuracy off of the games, which more or less were based on the 1972 design, he was mainly black. And so, black and gray, his scales were like that. But again, personally, it doesn't bother me that he has this little red tinge to him. I could care less at the end of the day. And so when it comes to everything else, though, despite the fact that he may not be 100% accurate at all, in terms of the paint, the molded in detail, the paint on the spines, the teeth, the tongue, I think looks really good. I think the eyes also look really, really good. And then the molded in detail, all the scales and all the details on the scales, the detail on the spines, I think it looks really, really cool, going all the way down to his body and the tail. The articulation is also really solid for him, because especially in his feet are really, really good, giving him more ability to be stable because of how he sort of sits down and positions himself in the film, and how he stands as well. Really nice there. The tail is also a really nice stabilizer for that as well. And then finally, the last thing I'll also say is I really like how they did his spines on his back. I like the fact that it's sort of like a backpack, more or less, just to give him more ability to be more articulated, a little more free moving, because again, if they kept it a static piece that didn't move all that much, it was kind of more fused, I think that Anguirus would have a little bit of a harder time moving. And so overall, out of a 10, I'm going to give this guy an 8. He's a solid release. The only issues, again, he doesn't come with anything in the paint, whether he has this red tinge or not, in the actual film is up for debate in terms of that accuracy. But overall, I think it's still a solid release, and honestly would recommend it, especially if you're collecting the 1972 film characters. So if you've got Gigan, if you've got Godzilla, if you have Jet Jaguar, definitely get Anguirus because we're more than likely going to be getting a Megalon in the near future. So really excited for that as well. To have that full cast of characters would be really cool. So I did pick mine up on the Big Bad Toy Store, so leave a link in the description of that. Also leave links down below as well to Amazon if you wish to take a look at that. Maybe like Entertainment Earth or something like that. I'd like to see if I can find another retailer that I would say is pretty reputable, and I'll try and leave that in the link in the description as well. But yeah, I think that's really it. And so I thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch this video. Please like, comment, rate, and subscribe. Share this video with your friends. Also follow me on the socials. Those will be linked in the description below. And with that, guys, once again, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video review, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Hope you guys have a wonderful day. Peace.